I know, it's been forever. And I just realized that a bus build became slightly more important than a video blog. So, I think the last blog we did, we were spray foaming this joint. And here we are a little over a year later, and we're done. So, I don't have build blogs made to get me from spray foam day to maiden voyage day. I do, however, have a lot of Instagram pictures and some stuff that my hope is to eventually go back and put some of those things together. But I wanted to try to kick things back off with a blog of a full walkthrough. It's about a half hour long, but I tried to take time to sort of stop and talk about any of the specific things that tend to be a lot of questions that we get. So what's going to come after this will be that walkthrough. I did it while we were at Traverse City State Park in northern Michigan. Some things in the bus have already changed a little bit since I did the walkthrough, so maybe I'll do kind of an update at some point past that. But this ought to give you a good idea, just kind of the flow of the bus, the layout that we went with, why we did some of the things that we did. And yeah, just thought I would try to jump back on the blog train and get things moving for you again. So without any further ado, here comes our half-hour walkthrough. All right, so here is our longer, more specific video walkthrough. I'm going to try to answer some questions about the way we did some things in a little bit more detail, but I thought I would do a quick walk around the bus to get kind of an idea of the outside and what we did here. 30 amp service there. I actually hooked up 15 amp service for our water heater. I'll explain that maybe a little bit more once we get into the nuts and bolts of things, and then the water door there to the left for our freshwater tank. Here's the back, and we went ahead and did fork mounts, lag screwed right into the frame of the bus. And so we have 4 sets of bikes that hang on there. Right now our youngest is small enough we can still toss his little bike in the back. At some point we'll drop another fork mount probably here in the middle. This will make more sense when you see the inside probably, but I chose to do a garage in the back. So my back wall of the bedroom actually ends one window before we get to the back. And here's the thing, there's a lot of conversations about space when it comes to Skoolies and what's the best way to do it. Obviously it's different for everybody, but we really wanted a space for storage, and we wanted the ability to have I'm kind of an organized packing type person, so I just wanted the ability to kind of have things organized and a place for everything. Freshwater tank is there. This is the base of our bed, and we just got these tough totes that pack and stack quite nicely. Areas on top to obviously put things, and then we've got these things over here. So here's our electric water heater, and I ended up going, we don't have propane in the bus, and I ended up going with an electric water heater for a couple reasons. Number one, most places we stay, at least right now, we're going to be able to plug in, so it's not a huge deal to have an electric one. And number two, it allowed me to bypass the actual 110 breaker box and direct wire it basically to the outside, which is again what this plug is for. In most places you stay, you've got a 15 amp plug-in, and if you don't, you just don't worry about hot water, and it's not too big of a deal. So for us, that's what we ended up going with. And again, it's different for everybody. Everybody kind of has their own things that work for them, but that is that's the choice that we all made putting together our back spot. This vents into our bedroom. I'll show you that when we get in there. A small side note, because I haven't closed this part in yet, but I ran all of my 12-volt wiring above the windows across the bus and around. I found that was easier to drop down in, and then all of my 110 is run in the walls. So I kept that kind of organized and separate. And again, because I'm kind of weird, I keep things all tagged in terms of what goes where. So I got like the little plastic zip tie tags, and that way I can kind of know what's what. We need to still finish off the actual back here, but that's our garage area. I make a plug for this thing all the time, but that extendable ladder is probably one of the best purchases I've ever made. I use it to hang the bikes. We use it to get up on the roof. It is so ideal and so easy to open up and close and store. I could not recommend that enough. There's the cute lady that did all this with me. I did an outdoor table. We've seen a lot of these. In fact, the inspiration came from a guy, Michael, who his bus Navi and Navigation Nowhere. But, you know, table space is ideal, and it's nice to not have to take like a folding table with you. So we did stainless steel eye hooks into the ribs of the bus. I built this out of PVC board, so it's weather permeable. I'll show you the underneath so you can kind of see how I put it together. And man, I love this table. Is just awesome. It's where we usually do our coffee in the morning and that kind of stuff. And I can't recommend enough having some type of outdoor table space. Outdoor speakers, I'll show you how we select those, and then maybe some on the other side too, but little LED side lights, those are all run into my 12 volt, the original driving switches. So when we're backing into a spot, we can flip those on. I've got 2 in the back and 2 on each side to just light up the area and really be able to see when we're backing into a spot. GPS, always nice. Went with a little, it's a backup camera, but I actually set it up so it's always on when I'm driving, because when we closed in the back wall, we obviously lost the view through the back window. So went with a backup camera that's got a constant feed, and that runs off of the 12 volt system as well. Our bulkhead, again, everybody kind of does this stuff differently, but music is a big deal for us, and having catch-alls is a big deal. You'll see that theme kind of consistent throughout our bus, a place for things to go. Everything we want to have a place. So we've got a little catch-all that hasn't caught anything yet, and that's maybe a good sign that we don't have a bunch of stuff to put there yet. But the bulkhead, is a nice hollow cavity, and so we used it to put in our in-wall speakers. And then when I closed it off, I left open a little space just kind of back there to put some things. We'll probably have some plants in there eventually and stuff. Love my hatchet. That was hand forged for me by one of our family friends, Caleb Wahlberg. Wahlberg Forged is his Instagram tag, I believe. And dude hand forges hatchets and hammers and just all sorts of cool stuff. And he's just old school, old world, kind of like I am, loves all things that are gentlemanly. And so he hand forged that for us. And everybody makes fun of me for it and says, why are you hanging it? Why aren't you using it? But I love it so much, it's almost a piece of decoration now. And I don't know if I would ever want to chop kindling with it. I've got my own little hatchet that I can do that with. So anyways, that's the bulkhead. This is the one spot still that is unfinished in terms of where all of our walls and wiring kind of come in. I'll show you that in just a second. But this is our solar setup, as well as where our information deal is for our inverter. I went with a 40 amp charge controller. I saved this little door when I was gutting the old bus, but behind here are the circuit breakers, 20 amp and a 40 amp breaker coming from the panels and then coming out of the charge controller into the actual inverter. Information center for the inverter. Solar currently is unhooked. We took the panels off when we were painting the roof, which we just did last week. So those need to go back on. But that's the whole solar setup, and it's coming in. The wires are coming in through the roof, and then into there, out, and then to the inverter. It brings us over to the power center. This is a flat nose bus, and one thing about a flat nose bus is that you don't have just 2 wheel wells to work around. You actually have 4 of them.
And of course you sit in front of the front set of tires. So the first set of wheel wells are under the power center and then under the couch, which I'm currently sitting on. This for me just became the hub of where everything was going to come in. And I went back and forth again. There's no wrong or right way to do it. You just figure out what works for you. A lot of people run their power centers in the middle. Some people do them in the back. I just wanted access here right in the front. So if I was troubleshooting anything, I could just kind of be right where the entrance to the door is. And kind of work through everything. So behind this little screen mesh door is a 3,000 watt Ames inverter and the 12 volt fuse box. And then to the right back in there is where all of my batteries sit. In fact, and I'm going to try to do this one-handed, this might not go well, but both of these cabinet pieces come off. Oh, look at that, I did it. And so under there sit our batteries, and I left space for one more to go in there, a little vent fan just to keep air pulling through that cabinet. But the house batteries that get charged by the solar controller, as well as the 30 amp hookup when we plug in, that's where those batteries are located. I can't get that back in one-handed. And then the 110 side of things sits over here. The electrical is probably easily the hardest part for me to try to figure out. I mean, I knew how to do 110. I understood the concept of 12 volt, but bringing both of those together was really, I don't know, it just took a lot to wrap my head around. The one thing I learned before I did it, and I was super thankful for this from a couple guys reaching out to me and making sure I was doing it right. We've got AC for when we're plugged in, but knowing that I should not run that AC through the inverter, I should run it directly into my box. So what we did basically was we brought in our 30 amp service directly into the box, and then it comes out of the box on one side of the box, comes out of the box through the inverter, and then out of the inverter to power the other side of the box. So we really have two things going on in here. Two of these switches, the outside outlet and the air conditioner, run independent of the inverter system. Those only work when you're plugged in, and then the rest of them, the fridge, the 110 outlets, and I've got them split into two, driver side outlets and passenger side outlets. Those all run through the actual inverter. And if none of that made any sense to you, it will if you're building a bus and you have to figure out how you're going to put all your electrical together. Let me know, as always, if you've got questions that I can help. Here's where I brought in, I said I ran all my 12 volt above the window. So here's where all of that comes in and then makes its turn to go into the actual electrical box. A couple notes here really quickly. I did a speaker selector switch. So I've got AB speakers. You can pump to the outside, you can pump to the inside, you can pump to both. Got a sub tucked behind one of the dinette seats. So that's their little 12 volt switches. I did, and I'm sure a lot of people who do buses did this, but we put in these little USB outlets everywhere. I mean, just anywhere we could think to put one. The kids each have one in their bunk. We have one in our bedroom, one on each side of the couch, one next to the dinette. That obviously, in the world we live in, just gives you access to power and charging capabilities, which is super nice. Went with a Pioneer in-home receiver. I spent forever trying to figure out how I was going to hook up a car stereo into the bus that would also work when I was parked without having to have the key switched. And then I had this light bulb moment, which was, wait a second, I don't need to do that because I'm going to literally have a rolling home with me. All I need to do is hook up a home stereo that runs through the inverter. So that is our Pioneer receiver. It's got Bluetooth capabilities, so you can connect your phone to it when you're driving on the road and pump out your tunes. I mentioned catch-alls. This is kind of a big thing for us, but especially for little things. You just got to have a place to toss stuff when you come in. At least we do, because it helps us stay a little organized. So this is a little topography map of Lake Michigan, and actually of all the Great Lakes. And we live in Michigan and love love our freshwater lakes. And so this is our catch-all. I mean, everything from iPads to keys to chargers, just go in there, and that has its spot there. Little 4K monitor to run what will eventually be, I've got the mount for it here, but a little Xbox Slim that will mount right to the side there. And before you judge me for having, video games, we love them, A, but B, the nice thing about an Xbox Slim is that it is also an up-converting Blu-ray player, so you can do your movies, you can load up digital movies and all that kind of stuff, and it just makes for a nice little all-in-one entertainment center where you don't have to bring discs with you, or if you do, it'll up-convert and you can play movies and everything is cool. If I flip around here really quickly, we went with an Ikea couch. We redid the legs so that it would sit above the wheel well, and then that gave us storage underneath as well. So this is just a standard house couch, and we measured it to make sure that it would obviously fit before we bought it, and then built the legs up so it would sit a little bit higher. And the other wheel well is got a box built around it, but is sitting right back in there. So we went with that. That's still a little unfinished. I've got some stuff I want to do on there still, but that is our couch. Moving down, we've got our dinette. This is one of those things for people that live full-time in their buses. A lot of them don't want to necessarily go with the dinette, or they'll go with portable tables. But for us as campers, the dinette option was just a must. It's a place to sit and play cards. It's a place for some seat belts for the kids. We're not like super huge that they have to be belted in, but it's a nice option, especially if you're, going down some crazy roads or something like that. So we went with the dinette. We scrapped some buses out of an old Metro bus and built platforms basically for those. I made the tabletop, and this is probably one of my favorite features in terms of what we did. So this is a National Geographic's national park map, and so all of the national parks are on this map, and I did a resin pour over it. It was the very first time I'd ever done a resin pour. I did a ton of reading just to try to figure out how to do it. I always thought they looked cool, but I'd never actually done one before. So a resin pour tabletop, I can't recommend enough, man. Find something that you love, do a resin pour over it, and make it a centerpiece of your ride if you can do it. We got little suction cup holders. Those are marine cup holders for a bus, but I didn't want to drill holes through the tabletop, so we did something that sticks on top and you can take it off if you want. The kitchen is also from Ikea. Great thing about Ikea is you can take in your measurements and they'll tell you what will fit. So that's what we did. Countertops, actually my wife's dad, my father-in-law, built custom countertops for us. So if you have family that can help you do things like that, that's always super cool. I pointed over here because eventually we've got one that's going to sit over the dashboard, but that's not in yet. But he did all of our custom countertops. And you'll notice we did not go with a cooktop. And again, this is just, everybody kind of has their own way of doing things. So we've been married for 17 years and have camped for almost all of those. And in every camper we ever owned, pop-up, hybrid, full-on travel trailer, we probably cooked once inside. We love to cook outside. We love not stinking up the camper with food. And so we opted to not go with a cooktop that's a permanent top. We love the good old-fashioned electric skillet. You can cook a ton of stuff in an electric skillet. The Instant Pot, the crock pots. We just wanted to have more counter space and not take up space with a cooktop that we may end up not using. So we didn't do that. And that was I think we were just happy with that. We didn't ever use our kitchen cooking options when we had our old campers. I did, this was actually more for cost and less about aesthetics, although it looks awesome. But we did these really long copper rods because you can buy, I think it was like a 10 or a 12 foot length for maybe $10 or $15. You can cut it to length. You can put little joiners on them like that. Where is it? Like that. And then you can hang it. You can surface mount it with a bell hanger, and all that stuff can get purchased at Lowe's or Menards or whatever. And you can just make your own custom length, and you could not buy and or have made for you custom curtain rods. So we went that route and got curtains from Amazon. This was Mindy's idea. These are little leather bracelets from a craft store, and we use those as our tie backs. They're screwed, finished screwed onto the the window itself, and that's how we hold our curtains back. We did do screens. This I was super excited about because I noticed that a lot of people did screens on the outside, but that to me just seemed like a hassle. The trick with a bus is that there's really no way, unless you build a way, for a screen to function from the inside. So when we finished our windows, we faced them with a what would have been a 6-inch board, which is really 5.5 inches, but we ripped it down to a true 4 inches. And when that gets mounted in front of the window, it leaves extra space on the sides for a little track. And we just built our own screens. We bought the screen, bought the spline, bought the frame, and cut it and built them, and then made our own functioning screens. And those, I just love them. Again, it's so nice that you don't have to go outside to like open or close a screen. You can do it all from the inside. So we love them. Oh yeah, and it's got a little magnetic catch up there. So when you pull it down, they sit like that. And then when you pull them up, you just let it connect to the catch and you're good to go. There's kitchen area. Oh, we went with a residential fridge. This is, dude, this thing's awesome. It's the Insignia. It's a 10.4 cubic foot fridge. We got it from Best Buy. It is the best of both worlds. It's not a full-size fridge, which could not only be a power hog, but a space hog. But it's not a little RV fridge, and we just love this thing. It is so practical. Freezer on the bottom is, of course, nice because then the space that you use the most is lined right up eye level with you. And then I stole some of the space above it to build just a little pantry area. So there's, chips, coffee, whatnot, all up there. All right, so that takes us then back into the bathroom area. This went through some adjustments because I'm going to actually step through. We initially were planning on doing a bathroom all on one wall opposite of our bunks. We ended up discovering we had to build 3 bunks, and we ended up discovering that 3 bunks would not fit. I'm going to spin around here. Would not fit all on one side. In fact, I built it and then 5 minutes later tore it apart because the top bunk kid would have gotten the short end of the short straw. It was just felt so claustrophobic up there. So at that point, we were going to do the bunks on this side and a bathroom on this side, but we changed our mind. Did 2 bunks here, did 1 bunk here, and changed around what we were going to do for some storage and just did 6 huge drawers here. So I mention all of that because then that changed what ended up being the layout for the bathroom. So we did our Nature's Head composting toilet on one side. I don't know if I could recommend enough a composting toilet. They are the best and so awesome not to deal with raw sewage and all that goes along with having to empty that. The composting toilet, I started reading that. I was like, man, that's crazy and gross. There's no way that I would do that. And then the more I read and the more I talked to people were like, it is, I know it sounds weird at first, but give it a chance. It is the coolest thing ever. So the toilet sits on one side, the sink sits on another, and there's not a door necessarily, but what we ended up doing was this. So we've got privacy curtains that are wired across, so you could pull this curtain if you wanted to just be back in the bedroom changing anyways. But we put in 2 privacy curtains, and if you're going to the bathroom and you want some privacy, you can pull that one and you can pull that one, and you basically give yourself a little space, a little bathroom space at that point. So we love it. It works out well. We're not super shy as a family when it comes to needing to go to the bathroom really quickly or something. So it just is what it is. We figured out what works for us, and that's what works for us. Ikea Sink. My father-in-law again took care of the cabinet building for me. That was something I had 0 experience in, and he just hooked me up, man. He was so cool. All sorts of little Ikea, things. The little storage buckets that they have and stuff like that. Ikea Sink. What's up? And Ikea, even just their little macrame pocket holders. Super cool. Bunks are a standard cot size mattress. We got cot size mattresses off of Amazon and built the space to fit perfectly for that cot size mattress. Each kid has in their own bunk a couple things. Their own little trucker fan. You'll see I put these in a lot of places. throughout the bus build. So each kid has their own little trucker fan. Each kid has their own little wire book basket, place to throw their books, their Bibles, whatever they're bringing with them in terms of the trip. And then this was another one of those kind of life hack things. So these were on clearance at Target, and these are actually wall planters. Like, you're supposed to stick plants in these, but we turned them into basically their catch-all. So if you got like charger cables and headphones and markers or pencils or pens, this then becomes the place just to toss those. And I did just a little bit of modifying. Normally the top piece kind of floats on the rod itself, but I actually ended up just attaching with a little screw and a little strap. So this piece actually holds tight, and then it just rests inside the grooves there. Threw a little felt pad behind it. And believe it or not, we go down the road and you can't even hear those things. So each kid has their own little spot there, as well as their own little USB charger and their own little 110 outlet. So tried to just make it a space that they would sort of love and enjoy. And then the very back of the bus then is, of course, Mommy and Daddy's spot. So a few things. Number one, depending on how much you're out on the road or how much you, need privacy, we opted to do some little double doors so we can obviously have our own little space there. I've got a little bit of tweaking that I need to do on those and finishing just some molding on the sides. But we've got little double doors. I made those out of maple, finished plywood, and then just did like the little finishing there. But we've got the option if we need to close our door, and that's always kind of cool. Storage here under the bed leads right back into the garage, and that is one option for not only storage but a safe access out the back of the bus if you needed to. And I'll show you the other one in just a second. But when you build a wall to the back, you want to not lose the ability to get out of the back if you needed to. So we did storage there. This is the most unfinished spot here. We just use it as a hamper spot now. At some point, if we do any other kind of retrofitting of propane or whatever, this would be a place that a little propane heater or something like that could eventually go. But right now, it is our storage spot for our hamper, and that works nicely. We did a little small bit of hanging storage here. So I got 2 rods in there just for your sweatshirts, your flannels, or whatever. And then over on this side, this is what we opted to do, Mommy and Daddy opted to do for our clothing. So these are really cool, super functional laundry bags, and we got these off of Amazon also. And the reason why we like these, oh look, that one still has the tag on it, in this space. The reason why we like these is, number one, they're really durable. They've got this nice little kind of waterproof coating on the inside and kind of a little tweed finish on the outside. But we love them for a couple reasons. Number one, you can take this. In fact, this is what we do. When we're going to go out on a trip, we take these inside, pack our clothes in them, and then you just bring the bag outside already packed and stick it in its designated drawer. And it just works really nicely instead of having to transport your clothes twice. So we've each got a couple spots for bags. The very bottom one is our shoe holder. So again, it's got a waterproof liner, so sand and all that stuff isn't a big deal. Which brings me to the other reason why we love them, and that is they double as a little day bag if you're going to the beach or something like that, because you can just, if you've got an empty one or the one with shoes, you can grab it and go. So that's what we did for our clothes storage. It's functional. You don't have to worry about it looking pretty, and it just works. And then I did little eye hooks at the top and at the bottom. So when we're traveling, those little straps just keep things from sliding out. The one strap, I said, not little straps, but just the one strap. So that's when we travel, what we do for that. And then our bed is a full-size mattress. We went with, the company's called NOLA, and it's actually what we use for our bedroom mattress, and it is just the most incredibly comfortable mattress. We're both side sleepers, and the NOLA mattress is where it's at. So went with a full-size bed, and you'll notice that we didn't do it front to back. We did it left to right. That was also purposeful. Number one, just to save a little bit of space. When you're building the bus, it's all about trying to figure out the best use of space for you. And so we turned it that way so that we could save a little space, number one. Number two, it makes it like a little cubby that you just kind of crawl up in when you go to sleep. And man, it's nice. We just love it. We sleep so well back here. A few people have asked about making the bed. You kind of figure out what works well for you. Mindy was talking about the fact that quilts are nice because you can keep them tucked in, and then when you're making the bed, they just very easily lay out nice and taut when you pull them up there to make the bed. So she's a quilt fan as opposed to like a comforter fan. In fact, she's going to replace the comforters on the kids' beds at some point. So there's our bed, and then a couple things just in our bedroom in general. So here's another little poured map that I did back here off of an old classroom map. And this is our kind of bookshelf. Got our Bibles, a little Charles Spurgeon morning and evening devotional because we love Jesus. USB chargers, 110, a place to throw your bags and whatnot. And it's recessed. It's sitting down, obviously, which is nice because when you're traveling, you can throw bags and stuff back here and they don't slide around. This is the vent fan that you saw in the garage. So I did not end up going up through the roof in our bedroom for another vent fan. I instead chose to do that for a couple reasons. Number one, because I'd already finished the roof and I didn't want to cut through a finished roof, although I ended up doing it in the front anyways. But this was nice just because it kind of doubles as a fan as well as a way to just vent air in and out of the bus. In the garage, if I keep the windows cracked, I can turn that vent fan on and pull air through the garage windows into the bus itself. It works almost the same way as a vent fan through the roof, and it's just what we ended up going for. And then this is the other emergency hatch. In fact, if I hop up here real quick, you can see it leads right into the garage area. So again, just more for the sake of safety. If you needed to get out of the bus and you couldn't go through the front, you could use the emergency hatch through the back. That might be it. Oh, I just noticed, I forgot that I didn't talk about this, but you'll see these everywhere as well. Got these on Amazon as well. Little gooseneck lights, little reading lights. Put them above the dinette. Put one above my driving chair, so if I need to have a light on when it's dark to look at a map or something, I can do that. These things are great, number one, because they're gooseneck, so you can directionally move them wherever you want, but they're also nice because they're two-stage lights. So they're a regular reading light, and then a quick tap makes it a nice little blue night light. So if you got little ones that want to have a little bit of light on during the night, it works really well for that. And then if you do a long press, it turns on the regular light. So again, you'll see those kind of all over the bus. We've got them above our bed, and the kids each have one in their bunk, one in each bathroom side. Yeah, they're all over the place. Gosh, I think that might be it. I know that was kind of long, but I wanted to walk through and kind of talk through some of the questions that a lot of people have when it comes to the build itself. But yeah, I'm so thankful for all of the love and support of friends and family, and honestly just strangers, people I don't even know, just reaching out and throwing love towards us. It's been a really cool project. I have had so much inspiration from the fellow Skoolie community. You guys have just been so cool. So thanks for helping us kind of achieve our dream, and we're just so excited for everybody else currently in the stage of building or on the road. Man, this is just so much fun. It's so satisfying to crawl into bed at night and look around and think, man, I built this thing. So yeah, thanks for checking it out. Hope this answered just some of your questions. And outside of that, if you've got anything else, I love to talk shop. So if you've got questions, ask me. I am not an expert necessarily, but I'm an expert in what I did, and I can talk you through any of those choices. So thanks for checking us out.